Mr. Eric Braeden, thank you so much for joining us out here. Now, I'm wondering, was it the acting first or was it the soccer first?
Soccer first.
Oh, so you were...
It was track and field in Germany. I won the German Youth Championship in discus, javelin, and shot put with my team. 1958 and 59, I came to America. And at UCLA, they had given all the scholarships in track and field. So I asked about soccer, which I also played. And then I was referred to a team owned by Jean Leon. Jean Leon owned the most famous restaurant in LA at the time, called La Scala, on Beverly Drive and Santa Monica Boulevard.
Oh, wow.
And Jean was soccer crazy, came from the north of Spain.
Naturally.
And he bought a team in the Greater Los Angeles Soccer League.
Oh, wow, thank you.
Gracias, Roberto. He bought a team in the Greater Los Angeles Soccer League called the LA Scots.
Oh, he bought the Scots.
He bought them,
yeah.
and then he changed it into LA United.
Oh, yeah, you know, because we've had such a hard time trying to keep track of all these teams. And
Yes.
see like team names disappear.
Yes.
So we figure like, well, what happened to the team? Did they just go under? Some of them changed names.
Yes, so when I started playing for Jean Leon's team, we practiced on La Cienega Park between Olympic and Wilshire.
Okay.
That has now been changed to recreation, but that's where we practice.
Okay.
And that's where I met all the greats. Billy Steele, who played for Dundee, Scottish International,
Wow.
Roy Milne, Paddy Ratcliffe, all played English at that time, First Division, Premier Division.
Wow.
They won the team. They had retired, they were in the early 30s, came to America. They made some extra money playing soccer.
Wow. So even before Major League Soccer
Oh yeah.
happened,
Oh, these were
before all these celebrities came out.
before Major League Soccer was played. I mean, yes. You had the Greater Los Angeles Soccer League. You had the league in New York, in St. Louis, in Chicago,
That's right.
San Francisco, all those towns. And the players all came from Europe or South America. My God, we had some famous ex-players from the European leagues, top leagues, and South America. And the Major League played at Jackie Robinson Stadium, La Brea and Rodeo Road, if you know what that is,
Yeah.
near Dorsey High School,
Yep.
every Sunday. And every Sunday, you would have the Yugoslav Americans, they were the Serbs, Croatia, they were from Croatia. You had the Danes from Denmark, you had 3 or 4 English teams, an Irish team. You had 2 or 3 German teams. LA Kickers were very famous, top team.
That's right.
St. Stephen's, top team. Danubia, another team.
Wow.
Then you had a Dutch team. You had an Argentinian team.
Wow.
You had a Chilean team.
Chileans?
A Peruvian team, Chilean.
Wow.
2 or 3 Mexican teams. I mean, it was, you know, the United Nations. Yeah. And they fought every war all over again.
Yeah.
I knew a war would break out between Serbia and Croatia when the Yugoslav Americans out of St. Pedro played against Croatia. We would come a game early just to watch the fights.
Yeah.
Every Sunday.
It's like I went to a fight and soccer broke out. What?
Yes, of course. Exactly. So, referees from everywhere. Very organized league. I think it's one of the oldest sports leagues in LA, I think.
Yeah, from what we've learned, originally started like around 1902 or 3.
That's right,
Yeah,
exactly.
under a different
That
name.
early.
Yeah,
That's something.
yeah.
The Greater Los Angeles Soccer League.
Yeah.
Wow.
Lasted
And
90
then-
years.
I played for Jean Leon's team, LA United it was called in the end. Then he made the huge mistake of inviting Real Madrid. He's a Spaniard.
Oh.
Real Madrid at that time, with Gento, Di Stefano,
Yep.
Puskás,
Yep.
Santa Maria. I mean, that's New York Yankees of soccer,
Yeah,
except
absolutely.
more famous than the Yankees. And we lost 9-0 in the Coliseum.
Yeah.
And yes, so then Jean gave up the whole soccer thing. He lost all the money.
Oh, I thought maybe he was traumatized from losing to Real Madrid.
Well, no, he wasn't traumatized. He was very happy that we're here, but he lost all the money.
Ah.
Not too many people came to the Coliseum.
Mm-hmm.
So it was advertised badly. Anyway, then I and a German friend of mine, Mike Meyer, who later on became a professor of European intellectual history, and he played midfield, I played defense. And we were asked by a guy called Joe Schwartz, who was Hungarian Jewish. He said, boys, do you want to play for a team? We'll pay you $15 a game. I said, oh. Now, I had been in the country for about 2 or 3 years, had just seen a documentary about Nazi Germany, a Swedish documentary called Mein Kampf.
Oh, wow.
I left Germany in 1958. That time we didn't discuss the Holocaust in school, ever.
Wow. I mean, how old were you then
I was
when the war
19,
ended?
20,
Well,
21.
I mean, when the war ended, how old were you?
I was, when the war ended, I was 4.
Oh, so you have like no recollection, really?
Well, yes, bombings
Oh.
every night. Oh, I have vivid recollections.
Oh, wow.
If people tell you children don't remember, they do remember. Trust me.
Wow. Even that young.
I have vivid recollections of burning
Really?
homes, of screaming animals who were aflame,
Yeah.
and bombardment. We were taken to the basement every night. Every night. I was born in 1941. Hospital I was born in was bombed to smithereens a day after.
Wow.
The town I was born in, Kiel, on the Baltic Sea, was 98% destroyed.
Wow.
So we moved to the countryside. Anyway, different story. So I had not learned about the Holocaust. We just learned that Germany had lost the war.
Wow.
The Holocaust was discussed in Germany in the 1960s for the first time. I had left by that time. So I happened to live here and do our jobs, play soccer. Hola, Pedro. And homesick. So I saw a film advertised, played on Beverly Drive and Rosa Boulevard in a movie theater called Mein Kampf. I said, oh, must be German. It was a Swedish documentary about that whole time. Hitler's rise to power, Holocaust, and the defeat of Germany after the war. I was dumbfounded, had not heard the word Jew except once in Germany, one single time.
Wow.
When 1958, on the way home from school, a schoolmate said, I got to tell you a secret. I said, what is it? I'm Jewish. I said, oh. Didn't know what to do with that.
Right.
So my mother was alive. My father died when I was 12. Couldn't ask him. So I asked her, I said, what does that mean? And she said, she just sighed. She was, oh, what one did with the white Jews, meaning the German Jews, one will never forgive us.
Wow.
That's all she said. That's all I knew
Yeah.
until I saw Mein Kampf, 1962, 3. That was hit me hard. And at that time, I began to play for the Maccabees. So I now suddenly became aware of all that stuff.
Yeah.
And the management of the Maccabees were mostly German Jews. Fred Laser, Chambray. Very nice, they spoke German. Very sweet people. Many of them had numbers on their arms.
Wow.
So I was determined to prove that as a German, I didn't share those feelings. I'd never heard of them before. So I then made it a mission to play for the Maccabees. the Star of David on my chest. And during the week, I played Nazis on television. Combat, Rat Patrol,
Yeah,
all kinds of shows. Okay? To the consternation of a lot of people who couldn't figure this out. They said, wait a minute,
Yeah.
he's German, but he's playing for a Jewish team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like it was obviously very important for you to play
Yeah.
for the Maccabees
Yeah.
after learning what was not
Yeah.
taught
And
to
then
you.
I remember Mike Meyer and I asked one evening one of the management, Izzy, said, you come with us, you want to hear all about it. So we sat there from 10 in the evening to 5 in the morning telling us all about how he was as a boy arrested in Nazi Germany. And he went to 3 different camps.
Goodness.
So
So were the Maccabees founded by
German
survivors,
Jews.
German Jewish
Yeah.
survivors?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I played for them with pride, with a sense of defiance, you know.
Yeah.
And I took them from the 2nd division to the 1st division.
They had divisions in the Greater LA
Yes.
Soccer League. Oh, wow. For
So
I
with
wasn't
LA
alive and well.
United,
Yeah.
we played in the 1st division, on the top teams.
Yeah.
But then Maccabees, we started in the 2nd division.
Okay.
But I was full of ambition, and took the team along with Ivar Davis, who became a journalist, British Jewish guy, Phil Freed, Mike Meyer, Clemens Terröder. We gathered a lot of, Mike and I gathered a lot of these players also from UCLA. Later on, 2 Ethiopian players, Shoba Agunafa from the Ethiopian national team, Prasar from the Ethiopian national team, wonderful players.
Yeah.
And I was sort of the driving force behind that. Okay?
Yeah.
And I was determined to bring the Maccabees into the 1st division, Premier Division. We did in I'd have to lie about that, 67, 68. And then we had the German Jewish coach called Max Wozniak. One of the most, he was an idol of mine, decent man. He was kicked out of Germany at the age of 12
Wow.
because they were Jewish. And they were pushed into Poland and Russia. He survived all that. Later on played goalkeeper for the Polish national team. He was a great athlete. Max Wozniak. And Max then later on went back to Germany. He was homesick.
Yeah.
And he studied at the Kölner Sporthochschule, which is one of the best academies for sports in the world.
Okay.
It's in Cologne. That's where he got his training license as a coach. And he then went to Israel and coached in Israel and played in Israel. Anyway, he came to us, the Maccabees. And he and I would sit every Saturday night on the phone and make the lineups. So when he came, I forget when the Israelis came. Benny Bienstock, fantastic player. That guy had a vertical jump. It was just stunning. He was about 5'7", 5'8", most. He outjumped all of us. Tough son of a bitch. Great player. He could turn a game around. He literally could. Fast, strong. Then we had Moshe Hoffman, who also played sweeper at the UCLA team. Great player, wonderful player. Then we had Eli Mamou on the left side, left fullback. I played right fullback. In front of Moshe Hoffman was Pini Ben-Zaken. You know, he's now a famous wig maker.
Really?
Very famous. Pini Ben-Zaken, I don't know what his firm is called, but very famous.
Wow.
Makes wigs for celebrities all over the world, as well. He played stopper. Then with my friend Mike Meyer, played right half. Then Jumbo in the middle. Then we had a guy called Goncharov, played right wing.
Mm.
A great player. He could dribble, oh my God. So like Stanley Matthews, he was a great dribbler. Then we had different people up front, but with one Mexican player, wonderful player, the name will come to me, the center forward, with Mexican First Division. Anyway, I will never forget the day in 1973. My son was 3 years old then.
Mm-hmm.
My wife was in the stands, friends were, it was packed. And we won the US Championship, the Open Cup,
Yeah, the US Open Cup.
1973. Happiest moment of my life.
Wow.
Nothing like sports.
Wow.
Nothing makes you certainly momentarily happier than winning a championship. The greatest feeling there is.
Especially the Open Cup. I mean, it's still happening today. And
We won against Cleveland,
oh wow.
and the Maccabees went on to win 4 more times.
Mm-hmm.
I was 32 then, but when I played for the Maccabees, when I did various Hollywood shows, among others the Rapid Film, they would come to the set sometimes, the players, and I would wear my Nazi boots in the uniform. We would play soccer on the side in between scenes. Then I remember, my God, Mike Chappell, who was with the Maccabees in the early days, he and Benny Bienenstock and their guys came to, I starred in a film at the Universal Studios called Colossus, the Foreman Project. If you haven't seen it, you should see it. It's a great science fiction film, ahead of its time. At that time seen by Spielberg and James Cameron, and they all saw that film. It was ahead of its time, about science fiction, about 2 computers that take over the world.
Oh.
As
Wow.
AI now may threaten to take over the world. We need regulation of AI. That's a different story. So, soccer, that was my world for a while. Great Los Angeles Soccer League, I think fondly of it. Then for a short while, I was asked by the Yugoslav Americans to play for them 1 or 2 games, but then later on I stopped. But the good teams were the LA Kickers,
Yep.
players like AYSO, who was very fast, left wing, tough to play against.
Wow.
He played for the US national team many times. You had Helmut Weiss, German boy. Then you had the Mata brothers playing in defense for that team. You had Albanza, great midfield player. Manuel Albanza, great player. Later on, you had Heinz Fischer, who played for Hanover '96 in Germany. And there's some damn good players.
Wow.
When I think of, that's all you thought about. Really. I worked, I did Hollywood, I did films, but that didn't interest me as much as soccer did. Serious. I did a Broadway play in 1965, and I called Mike Meyer, my friend, all the time. I said, how do you do on Sunday? How do you play? They won or lost. That was more important to me. I played with Geraldine Page and Kurt Jürgens on 49th and Broadway, Eugene O'Neill Theater. And opening night, you had, Tennessee Williams and Lee Strasberg, and they were all there.
Yeah.
That didn't interest me as much as how the Maccabees did.
Wow. I mean, how many years in total did you play, not just for the Maccabees, but like in the league total?
In the league total, I would say at least 10 years.
At least 10 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And then Maccabees was.
Maccabees from about 64 on, I think. 63 on, 63 on, I think.
Oh, okay. Wow.
I think. Memory serves me correctly. I think it does. Yeah. Never forget training twice a week down on the field next to Rancho Cienega, at Dorsey High. The smog in the 60s was so bad in town that sometimes we couldn't train in it.
Wow.
No. Couldn't breathe. Without regulation, this town would not be livable.
Wow.
Serious.
Yeah.
And you know where the regulation for it came from? California. So whatever people in the rest of the country say about California, some not very nice things, all the good things came from this state. All of them.
Including soccer.
From Clean Water Act, environmental acts, all came from here. Greatest inventions came from here. What are morons in the West talking about when they talk about California? It's a great state. We need to change a few things, improve a few things, but this is America. The best of it. The best academic institutions. Think of it. UC Berkeley, Stanford, UCLA, USC, goes on and on. UC campuses all over, UC Santa Barbara.
Oh, yeah.
My God, it's incredible. This state is incredible. This state produced more weaponry during the Second World War and afterwards than any other state, period. The others don't even come close. So I'm proud to be American, I'm proud to be Californian.
Beautiful words. Yeah.
And the Great LA Soccer League, oh my God.
You mentioned UCLA.
Yeah.
They can't. Every time that we researched a team and the league in general,
Right.
there was always somebody like, oh, they came from UCLA. Like, what is the connection between UCLA and soccer?
It started with my friend Mike Meyer, who got his PhD at UCLA and who played for UCLA for their team. But they didn't give scholarships at the time. So that's why I started playing for LA United. But LA United, Jean Leon and Dantana from Dantana's,
Yes. Rest in peace.
he said, let's go to UCLA and watch them, maybe we can find a player or two.
Oh.
We found Mike Meyer, played right wing very fast at the time, before he broke his leg.
Oh.
And then we had a Swedish player, and we signed them on. And later on, another player called Clemens Terode, great German player, and center half, great head ball, great player. So that's where the connection to UCLA came from. It came to us, to me, and then Mike Meyer. And I played for the UCLA team for a while, off season, not supposed to, but we did. At that time, you didn't check too closely as to are you a registered student or not. We had a wonderful coach called Jacques Stewart. Jacques Stewart was a burly Scotsman. And so every bit of a drink was spiked orange juice in a paper bag at halftime. Later on, when I played with Billy Steele, those who are from England and Scotland and Ireland, they will know the name Billy Steele. Right? Fabulous player. I played next to him. At halftime, he would light a cigarette. At halftime, we would go to these dilapidated dressing rooms at Jackie Robinson Stadium. Those are the early days. I remember, my God. You know, the Maccabees, we had a tough defense. I played right fullback, Moshe Hoffman sweeper, Eli Mamour left fullback, Pini Binzakin stopper. Tough to get through us. Eli Mamour was a tough player. I took all the penalties.
Yeah.
Didn't miss a penalty for 5 years. Because Max Wozniak made us take penalties at practice on Thursdays.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow.
You know how you take a penalty?
I try.
What you do is you take a full run. Full speed. No finessing it. Full speed. And you kick it, you put spin on it. Boom.
Yeah.
And you look at the goalie, and I pointed, I said, that corner. You kick hard, and the ball spins away from him. Even if he gets a hand on it, can't stop.
Wonderful.
When I see players stop and go, I said, push, hit the bloody thing. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Anyway.
What do you recall from that US
The final game?
Yes.
I scored the first penalty.
Oh, you went the penalties.
Yeah. First goal. Remember it well. Because when you take penalties, your heart goes like this.
Yeah.
I was used to it from track and field in Germany.
Yeah. And just from watching someone take a penalty, you're like, oh.
Yeah, no, it doesn't bother me. I become ice cold then. Also comes from the theater. Opening night on Broadway was arguably the scariest things I've ever done.
Wow.
It scares the living daylights out of me. Because you miss one line. In Shakespeare, all you need to do is miss one line. The whole house of cards falls apart.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's anyway. So penalties didn't bother me. I said, yeah, bring it on, let's go. But in the final game against the Cleveland Italians, I think they were called, it reminds me of a player I had to cover, was a Macmillan. He was Dougie Macmillan's brother.
Oh,
Dougie Macmillan was a great player in the Greater Los Angeles Soccer League. Great player. Great vertical, center forward. He would always say, "Hands, front post." So he was a Scottish guy. So you long pass to him and boom. Wow. Wonderful player. I haven't seen Dougie in a long time. Don't even know if he's alive still or not. Great player. He later on played for the Montebello Armenians. The Montebello Armenians owned all the trash trucks.
Really?
Okay? Yes, the management. So they bought some of the top players to play for them. And they would get paid in accordance with how many goals they scored. So I would say in the parking lot, I would see later on, they would have wallets in their back pockets like this with money. They would say, Dougie.
Oh, okay.
Dougie was a wonderful guy, wonderful guy. And I tell you, sports, the Mata brothers, Ronnie and Warner, they play from, where were they from? Nicaragua, El Salvador, I forget where they were from. Great
Central
players.
America somewhere, yeah.
Great players. And Manuel Albanza played midfield. Brilliant player. One of the best I've seen. But his brother played left fullback for the Kickers. Butcher, he was a tough guy.
Wow.
Soupy was another one. Played for the Kickers. Soupy Leonard. Tough guy. Oh, you meet afterwards. It's all wonderful. That's what's so great about sports. Unlike politicians, we fight each other, call each other every name in the book, and then afterwards you have a beer together.
We heard that from other former players too all the time. I'd say like, oh yeah, every time like you mentioned, whenever Croatians versus the Yugoslavs or Hungarians, and it's like but afterwards like hey, good game and this and that. And...
Yes. I must say, sports have been wonderful to me.
Yeah. I mean, you
opened doors for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you played with and you played against people from all over the world.
All over the world.
Yeah. And that happened because of the Greater LA Soccer League, you know?
Precisely. Yeah. Oh my God. And then I coached my son's team.
Oh, okay.
Christian Rudigas. You know, my real name is Rudigas. They changed it because I starred in a film at Universal Studios called Colossus, the Foreman Project. And Lou Wasserman said no one with a German name was starring in an American picture.
Wow.
That's why I changed my name from Hans Rudigas to Eric Braeden. The first part of the village I come from in Germany, Braeden. Anyway, so I coached my son's team for 20 years, starting AYSO. And we twice were in the Final Four in America.
Wow.
I want to win the US Open Cup with him as a player and me as a coach. And we twice lost in the final.
Oh.
1-0, and I forget the other.
Yeah.
Never forget it. But Christian Gurigas directed both Den of Thieves.
Oh.
He wrote and directed Den of Thieves. He's a writer-director. He's now planning Den of Thieves 3.
Okay. A trilogy.
Yes. And then he's also planning a film about the beginnings of the UFC
Oh, wow.
and the Gracie
Very
brothers.
good. Yeah, yeah.
Very different, and I love sports.
Another name that comes up pretty often is Dantana.
Dantana, I want you to listen very carefully. Dantana and a German-American fellow called Hans Stiele were responsible for the beginnings of the AYSO. Hans Stiele would come to us. He lived in Torrance, he and his wife, and he said, you know, I want my kids to play soccer. So he used to come to us when we warmed up before a match at Rancho Cienega and said, you know, I have an idea. I'm going to start what is called the American Youth Soccer Association. And we sort of listened and said, oh, yeah. Both girls and boys players. And we all laughed. Said, oh, yeah, well, good luck with that. Well, I referred Hans Stiele to Dantana, who was partly our manager when I played for Jean Leon's team in the United. Dantana is a soccer nut. He's Serbian. And Dantana's restaurant next to the Troubadour on Santa Monica Boulevard is one of the most enduringly successful restaurants in the world, certainly in LA. Packed every night. Who has gone there? From presidents to the greatest rock groups to Wilt Chamberlain to Marlon Brando, they all went there. Frank Sinatra, they all have been there. That's Dantana, the dynamo. He loved soccer. And Hans Stiele, I said to Hans Stiele, go to Dantana. Maybe he'll give you some seed money. And Dantana invested in the AYSO early on. He bought him the uniforms, soccer balls, all that. That's Dantana's doing. Without Dantana and Hans Stiele, U.S. women's soccer would not exist. And how wonderful it is to watch women play soccer. I was at the World Cup final. It was the Rose Bowl, I forget where it was. And the women played against, who did they play against?
In 99? I think it
Yeah,
was
99, I think.
China, I believe.
China, they played against China.
Yeah, at the Rose Bowl, yeah.
I never forget. And I thought, wow, how far we have come. That is because of Dantana and Hans Stiele, no one else. The others followed. Those, without that, wouldn't have happened. So that, in a sense, comes out of the Great Los Angeles Soccer League. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all part of that same circle of
Precisely.
people
Absolutely.
with just a passion for the game and wanting to create something bigger and better for everyone.
And Dantana had a very successful, still a successful restaurant. He sold it meanwhile. But he was such a soccer fanatic, he just died in Serbia, in Belgrade. I couldn't make it to his 90th birthday. And yeah, I took my son to Dantana's when Christian was 2 years old. Dantana's is a mythical place almost. Nothing changed since 1964 when he opened it.
Wow.
I was at the opening. Sawdust on the floor, no more, but the same red and white checkered tablecloths.
Yeah.
You would see on one night Frank Sinatra, Marilyn Monroe,
Wow.
Wilt Chamberlain, Willie Shoemaker, Lee Watson, basketball player. I mean, everyone has been to Dantana's.
Wow.
Limited seating capacity, and the same seats. I always said they should do microbiological study at Dantana. It's been there that long. You understand? And it's in 64, never changed. Great place. And the bartender was Mike. Mike played for Croatia for a while.
Oh.
I remember him from the Great Los Angeles Soccer League.
Wow.
And then Bobby Charlton, Bobby Moore, Jackie Charlton, they all have been to Dantana's. Beckenbauer, they all been there.
Wow.
Yeah, Pelé.
Pelé, oh wow.
The list goes on and on. Pelé is one of the nicest people. You know, when he played for the Cosmos, Benny Beanstalk, by the way, the Maccabees was offered to play for the Cosmos.
Really?
Yeah. He turned it down because they didn't offer enough money. He was a great guy. So there was another restaurant in Beverly Hills called the Bistro. And the Bistro was one of the top restaurants, and they had a party for Beckenbauer, the great German player, and Pelé, both from the Cosmos. They were here to play, I forget what game they played. And who is who was in the main dining room of the Bistro, from Sean Connery to Gregory Peck to Charlton Heston, they were all there. Yeah. And I was there with my son, Christian, who was 10 years old then. Beckenbauer was very shy, at the bar. Pelé came in and everyone, you know what he did? He said, you know, he first went to the kitchen. He said hello to the dishwasher.
Wow. That's a humble man right there. It's the first time I hear that story.
Never forget that story.
Yeah.
He came out and he saw the only child was my son. Kirsten was 10 years old. He took a picture of us first. Then he said hello to everyone else.
Wow. Old Ray. Old Ray Pelé. Wow.
A giant of a man. Wonderful man. Wonderful. We met several times afterwards. When they had the Olympics in Brazil? Yeah, a few years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was Olympics, yeah.
And they didn't have Pelé light the thing.
That's right.
I almost jumped to the TV set. I said, how dare you not ask that man? I hear different stories. Apparently he wasn't well at the time, couldn't have done it. One of the most moving moments ever in sports was Ali lighting thing at the Olympics in Atlanta. Remember that?
I do.
Wow. He already had Parkinson's.
Yeah. It was like 96, I think, yeah.
I met Ali, he was a big fan of the show, The Young and the Restless. And so was George Foreman, by the way. So was Tommy Hearns.
Okay.
So they would come by. Foreman did, Ali did. And Ali and I sat in a plane from Philadelphia to LA. And his photographer, Howard Bingham, came by and said, do you mind if the champ? I said, you kidding? So we talked. About boxing a little bit. And he showed me magic tricks. And then I've never seen anything like him. We walked through LAX. Everyone, from children, people in their 90s, stopped and looked at him as if he was a god.
Wow.
And he would have time for everyone.
Wow.
The two most famous athletes in the world were Pelé and Muhammad Ali. And afterwards, he said, come, no. He had a private elevator, LAX, private elevator that only he could use.
Wow.
Yeah. So in the elevator, we did started boxing. He said, man, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So, but unfortunately, no camera. I would have given anything for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I wish there was a camera of the story that Benny told me.
Which was?
You were playing on the Maccabees, obviously, and someone tried to insult you by calling you both Nazi
Yeah.
and Jewish.
Yeah.
So I mean, what was it? Just another?
Was a Croat player,
Oh,
and he didn't get by me. And boom. Put him on I didn't play too nicely.
yeah.
And he was on the ground. He says, "You Nazi, you Jew." I said, "Make up your mind, you moron. Which is it?" Well, that is because I played in the Rat Patrol and combat and all those things. Yeah, Nazi figures.
Right.
And Sanders is Star David, so they were confused. They didn't know what to do with it. Anyway, Greater LA Soccer.
Yeah. What other memories just come up when you think about those old days playing? You know, we talked
Well,
about.
we always suspected, as every soccer player does, that the refs are corruptible.
Oh,
You always suspect that.
of course. Uh-oh.
When they whistle against you, you said, so I always, some players said, "You hijo de la puta gran carajo, coño," etc. Or you said, "You son of a..." It doesn't help. I soon learned to talk to them in a very paternalistic way and say, "Ref, that wasn't right, and you know it wasn't right. That decision was not right." There was one Argentinian referee, I think, called Monzi, and we knew he screwed us out of one game. I know so.
Ooh.
I know so. Against the Yugoslav Americans, as a matter of fact. Anyway, characters you meet in soccer. Then I remember the kickers were owned by Mr. Ebert, and his star player was Albert Sohusen.
Ooh.
So Ebert owned a store downtown somewhere, and he was the manager of the team. Kickers were very good.
Yeah.
They were the team before the Maccabees. Although Yugoslav Americans were very good. Croatia was very good. I mean, there's some good teams in there. But no one prevailed as long as the Maccabees. But Ebert lost. Albert Sohusen was a great player, U.S. national player many times, to LA United, to our team.
Ah.
And he thought it was a betrayal.
Wow.
So a big fight broke out in the stands before a game.
Wow. Between Kickers and United, yeah.
Called him a traitor and everything else.
This is like semi-professional, not major league professional, right?
For us, it was everything.
Yeah.
Well, we had many pros playing for us.
That's true. Yeah.
Former pros. Who played for top teams in Europe and South America.
Yeah.
So one player, Argentinian player called Sanorini. He was wonderful. He played for LA United, later on, I forget who he played for. He was technically brilliant. I mean, brilliant. Great sense of humor, but he was a brilliant, what he did with the ball. Same thing with Albanza, Manuel Albanza, played for the Kickers. Great player. And then later on we had a player called Dieter Hochheimer, who played in the Bundesliga. Great player. Great.
Wow.
Heinz Fischer.
Wow.
And then the Maccabees, they all came from the Israeli First Division or the Israeli national team, But the coach I learned the most from was Max Wozniak.
Incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you look at where the sport is today, especially here now in America, we're getting the World Cup again for the second time in history, in this country's history. It's in Canada for the first time ever.
Yeah.
Third time in Mexico.
Yeah.
It's all happening again. I mean, looking back at the Greater LA Soccer League and what that meant in LA, like how do you see that time back then leading up to the World Cup today?
I think the Greater LA League gave birth to a lot of, certainly gave birth to the AYSO.
Yeah.
which gave birth to women's soccer in America. Then came Title IX, I think.
Yeah.
So colleges had to play women as well. AYSO led to club soccer, which produced a lot of great players on the American national team, both male and female.
Yeah.
And I once played an exhibition match with Alexi Lalas and Kobe
Jones.
Kobe Jones, who used to play for UCLA. And we had an exhibition match in Orlando, Florida, against the women's national team. Mia Hamm and they were all there. I remember. It's a great honor. I played with them. Nice. Alexi Lalas is a character. What a figure. What a great figure.
Yeah.
What a cultural figure. You know? Almost iconic. An iconoclast. He danced to his own drummer. Great player. The American national team, the men's team, should be better than it is because most of the players come from European clubs, top clubs. And I think what happens with them, when America needs them, it's at the height of the European season.
Oh.
So they're exhausted when they come. And then some coaches here are stupid enough to make them run interval
The drills,
sprints.
yep.
Come on, man. What you do as a coach of the national team, when the players come from Europe, you say, guys, let's all get to know each other. Let's have some beers. Okay? Now there's
Lucky strikes. No.
shrug of the ball. No, shrug of the ball. Shrug of the ball. You understand? Have fun. Bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
Don't have them do wind sprints. Nuts. It's insane.
Yeah. Yeah, like a lot of those young guys too. They start off too with either AYSO or like a youth club team, which
Club
again, so yeah. And then as soon as they can go to Europe, it's like,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Which again,
True.
couldn't really do back then.
True. Well, the MLS is getting so much better. I mean, I see some soccer now. Whoa. LAFC. Do you know that the club that I coach, my son's team, we lost twice in the Final Four in America. They were called LAFC, Los Angeles Football Club. That was actually our team.
Really?
Yes. I could have some legal proceedings, but I won't. I'm proud of this team here. Great stadium, by the way.
Yeah.
A great stadium. It's one of the best stadia I've been to. Not too many people, 25 or 30,000, I think.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
great stadium.
Yeah.
Whoever designed it, yeah,
Yeah, I've been there myself, so yeah.
that's
definitely.
great stadium. So, you know, when they got, I mean, they have some fantastic players now. Forget the names, but one of my favorite players, played for the Italian national team. Giuliani, what's his name? He played defense.
Ooh.
Almost bald-headed, hawk-nosed.
Oh, I know who you mean, but
Great player.
ah,
Oh. Then the French centre forward, Giroud, I think is his name.
yeah, Giroud was here for a while, yeah.
He was here for a while. And LAFC is a good team. Damn good team. I don't know how the national team is doing now. I obviously keep on hoping that they will really start kicking ass. You know? But in America, you obviously compete. The NFL, although most players in the NFL could not play soccer.
No.
They would die in 10 minutes.
Yep.
I never forget. When I played in Orlando at that time with Alexi Lalas and who the other guys were. And there was a guard from the Miami Heat, forget his name. He was invited as one of the celebs to play as well.
Oh, then yeah, the NBA team.
And I remember him saying in the middle, I didn't know you had to run that long.
Yeah, because they just kind of sprint, like
Yes.
walk back and forth, and it's a much smaller court.
By the way, every sport has its own conditioning. Every sport has its own conditioning. Boxing is an entirely different story.
Oh yeah.
utterly exhausting. To the point when you spar, you're in the ring with someone, you suck energy out of your toes. It's that exhausting.
Yeah.
In soccer, we used to play 2 overtimes. Great LA League, cup games, 2 overtimes. Another hour added. You know how exhausting that was? Soccer is an exhausting game.
Yeah.
However, how do you compare that to football? When these behemoth guys go after each other, that's an immediate exhaustion
Yeah.
of the first over. But they last in the soccer field, not 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Wide receivers would, yeah.
No, yeah, because they're
That's the back and forth all the time.
Yeah, they're accustomed
It
to that.
doesn't stop in soccer. So when people say, "Oh, look at the foul," they don't know. When you play 2 times 45 minutes, you play continuously, and the fouls are hidden and dirty.
Yeah.
You know, often,
Like when you knock down that Croatian.
yeah, you know, often, yes. You know, often I had ingrown toenails. They step on you.
Ooh.
I played defense, so a famous thing would be if you played against a guy who you knew was dangerous in head balls and the corner kick came in, you stood next to him, you either tucked his pants a little bit, or you, in the last minute, stepped on his foot.
Oof. Tricks of the old trade. There we go.
Tricks of the old trade. And you know how painful it is to get hit to the shin?
Oh.
People have no idea. You're in a street fight, hit to the shin. The guy would cry for his mama.
Was that your tactic as a defender with the Maccabees?
Well, no, I never played dirty.
Oh.
No, but you started with me,
Yeah.
come back again.
Right on.
And then there were guys, I remember a player called Califano, played for the Gauchos, Latin team, Argentinian team. They were calling the Butcher.
Oh.
Califano's
Sounds
a
friendly.
big- Call him the Butcher. And Califano, you knew would foul someone. And he would always step over the ball with a straight leg. That's a leg breaker. You know, that's how you break legs.
Yeah.
That's how you break legs and ankles. Yeah. Anyway, the names all come back now. You know?
Wonderful.
The best player in LA ever in the Great Los Angeles Soccer League was Julie V.
Julie.
Julius Wisny, Julie V. Played for the Hungarian national youth team and fled on one of their trips to Western Europe. And came here and ended up in the Great Los Angeles Soccer League.
Wow.
Brilliant player. The best player I've ever seen, ever played with, better than Billy Steele, better than any of them. It was fantastic.
Wow.
My height, about 6'1", no taller, 6'2". That guy, I would tell him before games, that Julie, I can't stop you the right way. I'm going to foul you every way I can. Nice man, great player. He won remember the NASL?
Oh, yeah.
The Indoor
Aztecs,
League?
yeah.
He won the Player of the Year award.
Wow.
Julie V is an artist in San Diego now. He was
Wow.
a fantastic player. He could take the ball, literally, and walk through 7, 8 players. HSV, Hamburg, one of the story teams of the German Bundesliga, came here, played at El Camino College against Julie V's team. Julie V against HSV, Bundesliga players, went through 5, 6 players.
Do you recall a Scandinavian team in the
Yes.
league back then?
Scandia,
Oh, they're called Scandia?
Scandia.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause, yeah, we did find one founded in 1964. That
Yes.
They called it as Fram.
It was around that time. And, Fram.
Fram, yeah.
Fram was a very good team in the youth league.
Oh, okay.
Very good team. They did not play with us in the Great Los Angeles Soccer League,
I see.
but they had a very good youth team. They were our enemies for a while when I coached my son's team.
Oh.
So, but Henry Dargard was from Scandia. Yeah, that's called Scandia, right? I think so. Henry Dargard was a nice man who also became involved with the Maccabees for a while. There's a wrestler, and wrestlers often become big later on. You don't think they're dangerous? Whoa. Henry Dargard was as quick as lightning, as wrestlers often are. You learn so many things in sports, and you learn to respect other men.
It's a better version of the UN back then.
Huh?
It was a better version of the UN back then.
And I learned how to curse in Spanish on the soccer field. 1942.
Ooh.
Okay? So when you get together with former team players, and you get a little salud, amor, pesetas, 11 mujeres, and I won't say the rest. Okay?
And with that, I thank you so much for this interview.
You're very welcome, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
It was great just having you reminisce on the
You're a
old
great
days.
interviewer, a very good interviewer.
Oh, thank you.